I truly love these conversations that we get to have. The ones where we're taking opportunity to articulate and sense into the difference between the content of what's going on in our lives and in our minds and the context, the orientation that all of it can rest in. None of this actually came to me as an idea. It came out of overwhelm. It came through a period of about 5 years where there were so many extreme things happening in my life. There was the house fire and the loss of everything that I owned in the world, the betrayals in my relationship, the walking with the love of my life through his terminal cancer diagnosis and subsequent death, my degenerative vision diagnosis, my heart ablation procedures, estrangements in my family, a dangerous hospitalization and medical diagnosis where I could have died. There was a lot going on. And as I've continued with healing in these different areas, and it is ongoing, it's become very important for me to notice in my daily life where I get caught up in what I'm referring to as content. For example, I might notice rumination beginning. I might notice difficult feelings or difficult conversations playing in the background of my mind. And then the question becomes, how do I want to relate to that? Because when that's happening, it doesn't feel like a want is available to me. It feels like a typhoon kind of cycle, relentless, like it never stops. How do we begin to unstick from loops that can go on? That they can go on endlessly. You know, I've been talking a lot about content. Content such as the endless chatter that goes on in the background or foreground of a lived life, whatever the circumstances. It's been about finding a place to stand and live life from a more rooted state. That's been very important to me, my healing journey. I think that's why this work matters so much. A recent example of this had to do with a purchase I made of a new cello. This was not an easy purchase to make. I had a cello that was damaged in the fire. It sat in the corner of my bedroom in this little apartment where I landed after my house burnt down. For almost 4 years it sat there until I finally took it in for repair and was told by the luthier that it was not worth putting money into. That was hard for a variety of reasons, and one of those very compelling reasons is that I play left-handed. And unfortunately, in the world of cellos, left-handed instruments and players are few and far between. I don't even think they'll let you into an orchestra if you play left-handed. Eventually, I found a company in Eastern Europe and I ordered one, custom made. It's coming from Romania and I'm super excited about it. It's not the most expensive cello one could possibly buy, but for me, it's an investment. As a bit of an aside, I recently read that Yo-Yo Ma, his cello was valued at $2.5 million, with between 10,000 and 30,000 being very common for serious players. Now, I'm not paying anywhere near those amounts. Anyways, back to what's pertinent here. My next step was to get in touch with my old cello teacher. And for some reason, he's not getting back to me. Not via text, not via email, in spite of conversations that we've had a few months back about restarting lessons. So a loop of rumination began for me in my thoughts, in my mind, churning up uncomfortable emotions. And this is what I'm calling content. As I noticed that loop going on, I also noticed feeling that it had tendrils reaching back into earlier trauma from my childhood. The themes I noticed were ones of not feeling safe, of feeling helpless, and fear. So rather than getting caught in the narrative of what was happening with trying to reach my cello teacher and all the things I was coming up with around that, because at the end of the day, I can find another cello teacher, even if that takes some effort. And I absolutely do have the capacity to do that. But what became more important to notice was this. When I'm inside a rumination loop, for example, content, I don't feel like I have capacity. It is effectively offline. Instead, I'm caught up in a loop of the mind trying to figure it out. Round and round and round. And so, what I've learned to do in these moments again and again is to directly access capacity through conscious awareness. I turn toward context, toward the context in which I'm holding what is going on, not just the content of trying to figure out why a cello teacher isn't getting back to me. But instead, I'm holding all of it within the larger space in which it's happening. And when I return to conscious awareness, the experience of that, it's not a thinking of it, things begin to shift. The situation may not be resolved in that exact moment, but I'm no longer fused with the loop. I'm no longer completely enfolded inside of the content. Spaciousness has appeared. And in that space, I can begin to remember that what's happening is in fact workable. This to me is part of what the orientation of context, i.e. conscious awareness, is all about. You don't really need to be a Buddha sitting cross-legged anywhere to experience the freedom that can come from this. We're not getting rid of the content of our lives. We're learning to notice and benefit from the context that can hold it. I'll see you next time. I'm looking forward to it. And thank you for being here today.